to Real Talk for Real Teens, the show where we uniquely combine the information teens need with the entertainment teens want.
Hello, guys, and welcome to today's episode of Real Talk for Real Teens. My name is Kim Creighton. As always, I am your host of this great and wonderful show. And tonight, my guest is Tina. Tina, how are you?
I am wonderful. How are you, Kim?
I'm doing well. Happy to have you on the show. Why don't you give us, introduce yourself to the listeners?
Well, my name is Tina Evarts. I reside in Akron, Ohio. I'm 41 years old, and I'm originally from Vermont, but I've been in Ohio for probably about 15 years.
Okay, and so which 21st century skill will we be talking about today?
I'd like to talk about communication.
All right, can you give us your definition? How would you define communication?
Well, communication, as far as now, I think it's definitely lacking because we're so involved in technology. We kind of rely on that a lot of times to communicate with people, such as cell phones, computers, email. And the thing is, it's hard to emotionally connect with people, especially when you're trying to either text via someone or, email or, it's no longer like just shaking someone's hand and actually having a conversation. So I think that's definitely, some skills that we're lacking in the area of actually just having one-on-one communication.
All right, so let's jump right in. One of the things I took from when you said about your definition was the connection, where there's a communication for you is making that connection. It's not just the exchange of information, it's being able to connect. And I know you want to talk about young people starting their own businesses, so let's just jump right in there.
Okay, well, one of the things that I have personally probably learned, and because I recently started my own business late in my life, is one thing is to really, really start where you're at. Communicate with people that are already close to you, and just feed off people that really want to share in your vision. I think a lot of times we cast our pearls before swine, and we kind of just share things that are very, very personable to us and things that are very dear to us, and we tend to share it with the wrong people. And I think that's one thing that young people need to focus on, especially if they are starting out, if they have certain goals in mind. I think it's very important to keep it kind of close to themselves and just share it with people that are going to support them and help them out in what they want to do. So that's definitely one thing I would suggest.
Yeah,
the other thing is
that's big, and that's especially when you're attempting to do something that you've never done before, and you're have your own little trepidations and uncertainties. You definitely don't want to be sharing that information with people. And she's not saying that people are gonna people are like, oh, keep it to yourself because somebody might steal your idea. No, what she's talking about is somebody who's going to support your idea. When you're going off, and this business thing is new to me also. So when you're going off and you're, basically you're jumping off a cliff. You're just going by faith. And the last thing you need are people in behind you, beside you, in front of you, in your ear, asking you, so why are you doing this? Does that make any sense? Why? That's not, you need, oh, my God, you need a job with benefits, all of those things. That's not what you need to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing I have learned, too, is to never really burn bridges. People that you may have lost contact with, you always want to kind of keep in communication with people because eventually they might be of benefit to you in the future. I think that's definitely a very, very big thing, and I have definitely experienced that with what I'm dealing with now.
Yeah, I could tell you that my mentor from college, I hadn't seen that man in like 21 years, and I told him that I was coming to L.A., and he paid for my hotel room. And I hadn't seen him in forever. And I tell young people that all the time. You never know who you're gonna run into again. You may have, got pissed at somebody and cursed them out, and then you go 5 years later and look across. You're interviewing for a job, and you look across, and that same person is sitting right there.
Yep, exactly.
And that would not be a situation I would want to be in.
Well, I have a little story. I actually went. It's also about breaking out in faith. I was leaving college, and I felt very led to go to summer school, and I didn't have all the money that I needed. I still owed like $500, but I just felt like I really, really needed to go, and I hopped on a bus. It took me about 19 hours to get there. And then once I got there, it took me a couple of days. I was hoping maybe to get some scholarship money. And all of a sudden I realized, well, I guess it's not going to happen. So this gentleman just walks up to me and he says, well, what's the matter? I said, well, I really thought I was supposed to be here. And I told him my story. And he actually felt very, compelled to help me out. So he actually gave me the money to stay for the summer. And I ended up connecting with these people that, were just amazing and just life-changing. And, so I'm really thankful.
And had you not been able to communicate your needs, that opportunity wouldn't have been, you couldn't have taken advantage of that. That's an amazing story.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I have had all sorts of adventures like that.
So tell us, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
So I was going to say, tell us something about what you do. I mean, because now you have me curious. And so I know you want to talk to about young people starting businesses. So tell us why this is important to you.
Well, it's because of the business that I'm in. I do massages, and I also do, actually I'm trying to incorporate airbrush tanning with what I do. And unfortunately, the massage industry has become very tainted. And I think with the pressure, especially even with young people or, with the economy, and I'm not saying this just relates to women, men are very affected by this as well. But sometimes I think we have this guilt feeling that we need to sacrifice certain things in order to be able to survive. And the thing I really, really highly stress is that it's really not necessary. I find that the more I stop the bad from coming in, the more that the good can come in. And because in this business, it's very stressful because you feel like sometimes your soul becomes very, very it consumes your soul if you let it, and it is mainly a men's industry. I mean, in some cases it is women, but probably about 80% it is definitely a male industry, and unfortunately, it just affects women, I think, in various different ways, especially when men try to take advantage of the situation. And another thing, too, is that I've noticed in this industry is a lot of women tend to do favors in order to accommodate for business. Does that make sense? Like they may say, oh, if you plant some flower beds, then, I'll give you a free massage, that type of thing.
So
those
bartering.
things do not work. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Bartering does not work. It really, really changes the tone of the business, and it changes how people see you as a businesswoman. They no longer really see you as deserving of,
of receiving cash.
Yeah, and they don't really appreciate what you do. And I really, really stress that those things just don't work, even though they may seem easier and they think that it's going to promote their business. It actually is very harmful, and it can draw in a lot of negativity. So I'm really just trying to help women understand that they don't have to sacrifice themselves. They don't have to, be pressured just because they are, let's say, quote unquote, pretty or attractive in a certain way, because it's just unnecessary. It's, I just really, really stress that because it brings in more bad than it does good.
Well, let's talk about that in the framework, again, of communication then. Because regardless if you're pretty, regardless of whatever it is, if you're a woman or not, if you're able to effectively communicate your needs or what your desires are in that business relationship, then there is no ambiguity, there is no blurred lines, there are no gray areas. And yes, a lot of people may think, I'm starting out this business, so let me do this for that. But you make a great point. And it really depends on a lot about your business, and a lot of it has to do with service industry. Because if you have a product, I can say, I'll give you if you give me service, or if you tell 10 people about me, I'll give you 3 of these things, these tangible things, in exchange for that. After that, if you need these tangible things again, you will have to pay for them. For some reason, with service industries, though, it becomes, even though people love service, there's a level of disrespect for the service industry. And
I agree.
And you see it, I can see it when I can go beyond just what we can typically think of service, like massages or restaurants. I'm talking about teachers. I'm talking about doctors, those kind of things. Someone's always trying to, not gonna say always, but there are those people who do this and I'll do that. Could you build my website for this or that kind of thing? And if you aren't able to communicate that, and that's fine if that's what you choose to do. But if that's not what your overall goal is, and you first of all let somebody talk you into it, which you just said, we talked about, if you let someone talk you into it, and that's not what you mean, that's not going to be in your favor. And also, if you're fine with saying, you know what, I will build this website, or I'll give you the template for build, or you know what, you have 3 websites, I'll build this first one for free. The other 2, or whatever it is, those things need to be very clear up front, because that's where you were saying the bad blood comes, all that stuff comes, and it does not work, because now everybody has different expectations. The person who's giving the service feels that they've been used, you've conned them. The person who's receiving the service believes, they did it for free this time, or they gave me a discount this time. Why won't you do it again? What are you trying to do? They treat you like a friend. They treat you like a friend and no longer like a business person. Or somebody that could on both. And it's on both sides. So you're absolutely correct. If you choose to do something, and absolutely, I said there's absolutely nothing wrong with that if you choose to do that. But be very clear on why you're doing it and what your end goal is. Well, actually, can I make a suggestion, especially when it comes to, I'll give you an example. When I receive a message and I feel like somebody's kind of interrogating me with questions, I turn it around and I say, I say, look, I really don't have time to text you this information. All my information is on my ad. It's on my website. I said, if you have any questions or concerns, so feel free to call me. So what it does is it forces that person to communicate one-on-one with you directly rather than interrogating you with a text. And it changes the tone, and it instantly shows you exactly why they're calling you and what they're trying to relay and what they're trying to communicate. Give me an example of that interrogation. I want the audience to hear. What are some of the things that are they? And you don't have to be very specific, but just what are some of the things that? What are some of the things that the people are sending you trying to get? Because I'm trying to figure out what are they asking, and what do you think they're trying to get from you? What information are they trying to do? Well, first of all, if they got my number off the website, then they clearly, for instance, if they're asking me what the rates are, what services I provide, I instantly know that they probably actually only looked at my picture. They actually didn't look at the ad. So it instantly sets the tone for what I know that they're trying to communicate with me. So instead of being interrogated, which I hate, I don't like being interrogated. I don't mind me being asked questions, but when they're trying to have a conversation with me over a text, I really don't have that kind of time. Owning a business is just, it's like having a child. It's you have to put everything into it. So I don't have, and I have over maybe, a certain amount of clients that I have to keep track of, and I have new ones coming in all the time. I don't have time to sit there and actually have
like he's my friend or something. I don't have time to relay all the information because there's a lot of different types of massages that I give. And I also do the Evarts chanting, and, I have other people working with me, so I don't have time to give them all that information. So instead I turn it around, and I just try to address their concerns, like what kind of massage are you looking for? What concerns do you have? What questions, are consuming your mind that, you feel the need to ask me all this on a text? So
because I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying, because if you offer 10 massages and you sit there and answer that, not only do you have to list 10 massages, but you have to differentiate what makes them different and all that. And so that information can be easily found on your website. And see, for me, I wouldn't even do that. I would just say, if someone asked me about that, I would say, for those kind of questions, I would direct you to those on my website. And if you have any other additional questions, and so I can see what you're saying. So what do you think they're trying to get by asking that? Is it just that they haven't looked at the website, or they haven't read the ad, or is there something something else that you think they're trying to get to, but they haven't quite been honest and got to yet?
Well, in my experience, and again, this is just my experience, I'm not trying to say that everybody goes through this, but in my experience, when they ask for rates, it's because they want extras. It just happens every time. And, obviously after I responded, then he was asking for mutual massages, and I instantly said, look, I don't provide that service. I said, and honestly, I'm mean. I instantly block them. I don't sit there trying to argue with them. Sometimes I think young people feel like they have to be defensive. And if they really believe in what they're doing, if they're confident, they're going to just block the crap out. They're not going to sit there trying to defend themselves. It's not worth the time. It stresses you out. And, there's no reason for you to really, if you're really good at what you do, there's no reason for you to have to defend yourself. And I think that's a very justify your value. I'm so happy you brought that up, because so many people do that. They are in spaces where they're not very confident about themselves, that they allow people, and those people seem to know that you will let them do that, and so they keep going. So I'm glad you brought that up, because exactly at a point you have to just say, you know what, this is it. This is, and I'm not having this conversation anymore, because they keep digging, they keep pushing, they keep trying to push you over the line, and you make a great point. You do not have to justify your value, whether it's in a business, whether it's in a relationship, whether it's in school, you do not have to justify your value to anybody. Either they get it or they don't. And if they don't, they're either going to ask intelligent questions to figure it out, or they're not. And also, everything is not for everybody. So just because you want a massage does not mean that I'm the person that needs to give you the massage. Sure, absolutely. No judgment. I just don't. It's just the way it's. I just prefer my business to be the way it is, because I actually am involved in pain management, and my whole focus is on. You really have to know what your focus is, even if it's just massage. You still need to know what the purpose is behind what you're doing. I think a lot of people go into the industry and they just develop this routine, and it's no longer like a one-on-one thing, and there's communication lacking with the client as well as the masseuse or no matter what you're doing. And if you don't have that communication, it's definitely going to turn the client off, and you're going to lose people that way. And I've noticed, because I've gotten massages even just to test people out and to learn. I would go in and I'd find that they would just do a simple routine. They would not actually ask me what was going on personally. And I really kind of struggled with that. Or if I did tell them that it was hurting, they would push harder. They didn't really listen to what my needs were. And I think that definitely needs to be addressed, especially, again, with young people. I think they tend to get in a pattern, and they don't really understand that it is about the person that they're with, the person that they're treating. And it's very important to really listen and communicate with, what their goals are as well.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because let's take this again out of being a masseuse, and this is anywhere. For it to be effective communication, you have to be able to hear the needs or desires of the person you're communicating with, so that your responses or in line with and move forward. That's another great thing, to move forward the conversation or the communication. Because if you only in it for what you need, then it's not a conversation. You're not communicating. That's one
right.
way. Communication is it's like a cycle. You say something, and I find that I even catch myself doing it. Someone says something, and you have to step back before you want to respond. Because on this show, I know, and that's why I take notes. I forget things very easily. So if you start on something else, then you might have had a great point. So I have to write it down because you move on, and it's something I might want to say, But I have to be mindful of that. And that, but it's always about, did I hear you? Did I understand you? Okay, based on what I heard and what I understood, now I need to respond. Now then I need to pause to make sure you understood and we're on the same page. And that's how that keeps moving forward. So just keep taking a step forward. And when it comes to business and giving out these services, again, if you choose to do something for free, that's fine. Be very clear on why you're doing it, and don't get it. And if you decided that and you have not communicated that, then that's on you. You can't get angry with somebody who you can, or think someone's taking advantage when you have not been clear about what you said. So I love how you said, I've asked you, are there any questions, concerns, and you keep pushing. At this point, I need to shut off communication because we're not going anywhere.
Right. I'm not sure if it was Dale Carnegie that said what communication is 90% listening.
Yeah.
It's actually and even in music, it's pretty much. I think what my concert choir teacher said, it was 90% concentration and 10% singing. And I kind of like that concept because it really is about listening to what's around you, communicating. You don't always have to communicate with just what you say. It's also body language. It's also just simply being polite to someone, or just that is a form of love and communication. It's again something else we're lacking because of technology. We're no longer really being able to read people. If we do send a text, we don't really know the emotional content behind it, so people get offended. I've even seen people argue through texting. I'm like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
Maybe
it's because they pick up the phone, and then when they pick up the phone, they're like, oh, damn, that's not what I meant. So now we've had this argument. Yeah. Now our feelings are really hurt, but that's not what you meant. I substitute teach a lot, and I can tell you this is when you're talking about politeness, this is so funny to me because when young people enter a room where there are other people there, they won't say good morning, good afternoon, hello. They'll just come in. And when I stop them and say, hey, what should you say when you enter a room, they actually have to stop and think. To me, it's like I asked them an SAT question before somebody says, oh, good morning. It's like, oh, I cannot believe that common courtesy is so far gone, or you haven't practiced it. That becomes to you this like, oh my God, what is she asking me? You're coming to a room. What would you say? That's just simple to me. But you're absolutely right.
I'm glad you actually brought that up because when we think about way back when we communicated, there's so many different types of arts of communication. Like for instance, did you know there was actually a fan language that they used back in the in World War II? They actually had couples would actually communicate with fans. Like a woman would actually communicate certain signals just by where she placed the fan on her, either on her face or on her shoulder. And actually it was a different form of communication. It was very, very,
and
just
flowers
very discreet.
And flowers, too. The different flowers had meaning. You wouldn't say anything.
Right.
It was just, yeah. And I love how you talk about the body language. That speaks more than the verbal. Because if you're saying I love you, but your body language is all crossed up, that's not what I'm getting from you.
Right, exactly. And I think, especially with a lot of men, and women too, playing games, not really communicating how they really feel, just it's even before I met my boyfriend in the dating industry, it's the same way. I think a lot of people treat their relationships how they treat their business. And like even if you take somebody out to eat and they're rushing and they're consuming their food really quickly, I find that they do that in life. They don't really take time out. They're constantly just rushing through. You can see these patterns in just simple types of behavior. And, I think that's something that people could focus on in the dating world too, just simple things on how they actually do things in life in general. And, you can tell in especially in whatever kind of business, if they're sales and they're constantly having to rush and be active, and a lot of times they pursue their relationships the very, very same way.
And,
so that's
and
something
you made
that
a
I've
great
learned.
point. And you made a great point, and then we'll take our break. But you made a great point in the fact of when you're communicating, when you're doing business, it's a relationship, and you communicate a lot by what how you value a relationship and the energy and effort and attention you give to it. So if I'm having lunch with you and I'm meeting you for a business meeting, it's our first time meeting, and all that you're doing is looking at your watch or rushing through your meal. Yes, there could be, you may have another appointment, but in my mind I'm thinking, why would you make another appointment right behind this when you don't even know what we're going to talk about or whatever? I always give myself some cushion because I don't want to rush what's going on, because I might miss out on something that I need because I've rushed what's going on.
I had a friend of mine that did business. He worked for Goodyear. He actually had to do business with Japan. And the thing is that they refused to have meetings over the computer. They would actually fly them over there just to have a meeting, just to see what their body language was right in person. And I thought that to be, I just found that to be very highly valuable, and I gained, they gained a lot of respect for me just by, how they approach communication, and they stick to it. They don't waver from that. Just old traditions, and I think that's something that. Absolutely. And, just simple of a shaking of a hand. I mean, I can instantly tell if the person, or if they're looking directly at me. I mean, it's very, very important to learn body language in business, because it definitely, even for yourself, even to protect yourself, you can kind of get an idea of what that person, what their, how you're feeding off them. I mean, or what their intention is.
All right, so we're going to take our break, and then when we come back, Tina's going to give us 3 tips for developing communication skills that will help you in building or growing your business.
Follow us on Facebook and YouTube at Real Talk for Real Teens, and on Twitter at RTFRT Radio. New or unknown musical artists. If you'd like your own mini concert, request information at realtalkforrealteens@gmail.com.
Okay, Tina, we're back, guys, and Tina's going to give us 3 tips on communication as it relates to business.
Well, the first one that we were talking about is learning how to communicate without having to rely on technology. And the second one is just really know where you're shopping. Even if it's the dating industry or if it's the massage industry, really research and communicate exactly what you are looking for. And don't be upset that you're not getting what you want. It's just important to know where you're shopping, and also to keep in communication with your older clients, to never burn those bridges.
All right. Well, thank you very much for agreeing to be on the show and to impart some wisdom on our young people 18 to 25. I know they appreciate it. Wishing you continued success in your business, and have a wonderful day.
I appreciate your time, Kim. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening, and join us every Sunday through Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern for more Real Talk for Real Teens.